with Collins Harlan.
Welcome to Hire Away. Hire Away is a show where we talk about jobs, we talk about business, but importantly, we talk to the people that are running those businesses and doing those jobs. These are people with skin in the game. I'm Collins. I'm a staffing specialist for Labor Finders. And in St. Louis, we have a North County branch, we have a South County branch, but we have branches all over the country. So you just go to laborfinders.com. That's laborfinders.com. You find the branch nearest you, call us up and we'll help you out. Okay, so today on the show, we have Elizabeth Kayser, and she has a show every Sunday evening on News Talk STL, which is called Straight Lines. She's going to tell you a little bit about that. But the topic for today's show is AI. And there's a lot of anxiety around that topic, especially as it pertains to displacement of jobs. What we're going to try to do on the show today, though, is maybe just pump the brakes a little bit on that. We're going to go into some real-time discussion and data that might be able to, just turn that anxiety down a little bit. So we're going to do that. And enough of me yakking. Let's talk to Elizabeth and let's do this.
Hire away!
So Elizabeth, you have a show Sunday night called Straight Lines. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I sure can. Yeah. So it airs every Sunday at 8 p.m. and it's called Straight Lines, not a crooked line. There's a reason for that. It might be a little cryptic, but we certainly talk conservative. So that's maybe one of the ideas. We focus on 3 topics. And so in my show, I always start with the legal environment and what's happening as it pertains to all things law as it affects the Trump administration. I am a lawyer. I've been practicing for over 20 years. So I focus on the Supreme Court decisions, which is fascinating, and the lower federal district court, which we call judicial activists sometimes. And we also focus on Congress and what's happening now with the government shutdown. In fact, we just went in depth on what a shutdown is and why it occurs to kind of give the legal definition, because most people don't know what a shutdown is and why it happens. It just happens. And so that was kind of interesting. Went into that in my show. The second topic, Collins, we go into health. And in particular, we talk about mainly what RFK is doing and with the health policies and how it's affecting the United States, how it's affecting the food manufacturers, some of the very bold moves that he's making, which is quite obvious that the big food manufacturers are certainly standing up and standing to attention, because they just announced, in fact, just this morning about taking out the fat substitutes, all of the food dyes, the preservatives, the chemicals, and that's very exciting. Some very, very top food manufacturers. And then the third topic that I like to get into, when warranted, is AI. And I'm happy to be here with you to talk about AI. I mainly focus on my show is the negative consequences of AI. I think the positive consequences of AI are pretty self-evident. That doesn't really require a whole lot of discussion. My grave concerns is the negative consequences on several levels.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people focus on AI through that lens. I think it's a natural human instinct to do that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's natural. But today we're going to talk a little bit about specifics of what's going on right now as we speak. Because everybody kind of thinks, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Well, is it really? Now, with what you just said, is the sky falling?
Depends on what levels. That's why AI is so multifaceted and very confusing. So when you think of AI, I think of it as probably about 5 separate buckets. So if you talk about AI, how is that going to affect the labor market, which you and I are going to talk about? Then you can say, well, how is it going to positively impact the medical diagnosis and acceleration of gene sequencing and cancer chemotherapies and things of that nature, imaging, interpreting imaging. Incredible advancements in medicine.
Not to interrupt you, but we should mention that you actually have not necessarily a medical background, but you are very well versed in medical terminology, medical theory, if that's even a thing.
Yeah,
but sure. you come from a medical background.
I do as an entrepreneur.
As an entrepreneur, yes.
Yeah, but it was innate, so it wasn't a random thought. I think I'm going to do this. Actually, when I went to law school, I didn't want to go to law school. I wanted to go to medical school. I always wanted to be a doctor. I was in pre-med and took the core requirements. In fact, I went so far as to go back and get some of the specials, like in the particular classes you have to have for any kind of medical degree, such as chemistry and some advanced biology. And at the time, I'll just say one statement real quick. I couldn't go because at the time I was married. I had a little girl. I would have had to move to St. Louis, possibly uproot my family. I wasn't going to do that. That would have been very selfish. So I thought, oh gosh, I'll just go to law school. This is really going to be boring. Did a lot of informational interviews, talked to a lot of attorneys, talked to the Secretary of the State at the time about her opinion, and I went to law school instead. I loved law school, but I've always had just a very natural affinity to anything medical. I can't explain it, but when it comes to the way the body functions and diseases and pathogens, I feel like a fish in water, even though I didn't get the formal degree. And I'm naturally a health nut, so I'm constantly studying. And then later on, in fact, pretty recent, in 2020, I started a blood testing medical company that was targeting a lot of the chronic conditions, namely prediabetes, so that we could stave off diabetes with a microsampling, which is known as a finger stick blood testing kit.
It's brutal. I mean, anybody that has diabetes knows,
Yeah. We were targeting a lot of people, but the main target, we were going after long-haul truck drivers. And it's kind of cryptic, or people get taken aback. It's like, why would you be targeting truck drivers? That's kind of odd. Here's why. Have you ever seen a semi-truck in the parking lot at a Quest or a LabCorp?
Mm-hmm. No, I haven't. When you said Quest, I thought you meant like some kind of gas station or something.
But you can't, right? But they can't even go to a lab, and they are also the ones with the behavior least likely to do anything like that. And so we were targeting one of the sickest populations in the United States. Most of them have comorbidities, which means they have more than one chronic condition, and it's always prediabetes or full-blown diabetes.
So that's really fascinating. It's interesting. But let's get back to those. I interrupted you. Let's get back to those.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
It's my show. I interrupted you.
Collins, would you please stop interrupting me?
That's right.
Okay.
You're well within your rights. But let's get back to those 5 buckets you were talking about. You mentioned job displacement.
Job displacement, and then I kind of bounced to the other side of the fence. Medical is positive, okay? And then, you've got the increased productivity and efficiency in work environments, operational efficiencies. That's a positive. So you've really got plus and minuses. The other negative, okay, you've got 2 negatives and 2 positives so far. You haven't got the last negative. The last negative I really like to concentrate on. And, I came into your studio, in fact, just a half hour ago, and I said, Collins, I need to detox from ChatGPT. My brain's already developed. I don't think it's really going to hurt me. It's not going to hurt you either. It's going to hurt our 20-year-olds.
That's fascinating, and I do agree with you.
And I have grave concerns over that. And there's already studies showing by MIT that the brains are already functioning differently, and they're not lighting up like they should, and they don't have the dopamine reward center working as it should. When students are using these language learning models, Chat, Grok, doesn't matter what they are, but their brains are very dead and desensitized, and they're not getting any reward or dopamine rush because all the answers are just given to them.
Yeah, how do you develop a skill that you're going to need in life, which is to solve a problem and to research something? And you don't have to do that anymore with these models.
That's right. And I think it's too much. And another thing that AI does, and again, I think it's insidious and it's very cryptic because people don't know that it's happening. But that rush that we all have when you go to a Chat or a Grok and you're able to give this fantastic comparative analysis between 7 funds, like we talked about, and whether those funds are receiving direct funds from the foreign governments and AI development, and is that a good fund to invest in? It makes you feel smart temporarily. It's kind of a transient feeling, but we all have it. So we're all homogenous.
Yeah, that's an interesting take.
Yeah. So I can get pretty philosophical.
Well, and it's great. And I'm sure that we'll continue to do that. But so You mentioned that you're an attorney. You passed the bar.
I did
Congratulations.
twice,
Yeah.
but in 2 states, so I didn't have to take it again. That sounded bad. It sounded like I flunked it first. No, I passed it the first time in Missouri, and then I tested out of that, and then I went to Illinois.
So you've probably got some pretty good contacts in the legal field.
Yeah.
And have you been able to talk to those contacts and plumb those contacts for information about how AI is already impacting the market?
I have. In fact, I was just practicing as a full-time attorney concurrent with my talk show. So for the last 3 years, and this is after my blood testing company, I went back into the full-time practice of law. I mean, showing up every morning at 8, leaving at 6 p.m. I was an insurance defense law firm. And then after that, I went to a personal injury plaintiff's law firm downtown, and I saw it in action. So I didn't just talk to them. I actually was one of them using it. In one of the law firms, it was strictly prohibited. The partner said that if they caught anybody using AI, that they would report them. So they were very strict, and I respected that. And then we went to another law firm where they used it all the time. So it's really interesting. And then lately, I just got in contact with the largest company internationally that provides alternative legal service provider.
What is alternative legal service provider? What is that?
So the term is called ALSP, and they just roll it off their tongues. And I said, slow down, what's ALSP? It's alternative legal service provider. So they've been doing this for a long time. And what they do is they provide tools and people that aren't necessarily lawyers to save on the legal expenses. So they are support to very large enterprise companies in the United States and other countries as well. And they have learned to provide certain support services, an alternative not just to a lawyer, but also an alternative to a full-time lawyer, which salaries can be quite high. I mean, in St. Louis, 150, 200,000 plus benefits. But if they just have a particular project, then they can provide like a part-time lawyer. But they're real excited because they're in a sweet spot. They are really going to capitalize on these AI tools that have been designed for lawyers, and they already are. Mm-hmm. And I'm supposed to be talking to their chief technology officer hopefully in the next week or so, because I do want to interview him on the show.
So they're basically ahead of the curve, and they're using these AI now. So they do something. They have a different model than a tank full of attorneys.
Yeah, they do.
But the reason is because they've leveraged AI successfully.
They've done both. So let me be real clear with this company. They have 14,000 lawyers on their staff.
Okay.
And they're contract attorneys. So they have 14,000 lawyers, give or take 100. And so they have basically a bullpen. We call it a bullpen of lawyers, but a huge bullpen of lawyers that they can designate, kind of like a Kelly Services from a long time ago. These part-time staffing solutions, and they can provide a part-time attorney just for a particular project. So if they're needing somebody to work on their patent or their trademark for the USPTO. They said, how many attorneys do you need? I need 3 good attorneys that are specialized in patent work for 3 weeks, and they can provide those. They can also do the AI tools and paralegals and legal assistants. So they have full court press on the entire labor market in the legal community.
Wow.
I see everything.
So I was doing some research myself, and the white collar industry, legal.
Yeah.
That's the hot spot right now for displacement. But what I found out in doing my research is AI, it hasn't necessarily displaced a lot of jobs yet. But what it is doing is it's augmenting, it's redefining jobs and roles. And so I guess, what's the name of this company that you're talking about?
Axiom Law.
So that's a good example of that.
Yeah, very much.
But and I actually got some statistics that are you have to kind of keep in mind these statistics, these numbers. These aren't job. It doesn't reflect job displacement.
Okay.
These are surveys. I don't know what the sample size is, but these numbers reflect the extent at which AI has been able to augment and redefine these roles. So customer service, 14%. I'd imagine it's actually higher than that.
Oh, it's got to be higher than that.
But legal, they got it at 33%.
Interesting.
Yeah. So,
okay.
And then human resources, a company like IBM, for instance, they
Yes.
have that Watson platform.
Yeah.
Guess what the percentage of HR tasks and roles they've been able to completely eliminate?
50%.
Go higher.
Seriously?
Yes.
65.
98.
You're kidding.
Of routine tasks. So that's
I got to ask you, what's a Watson platform?
it's their go-to platform. It's their proprietary platform because IBM
Yeah.
isn't a Windows machine.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
so they got a proprietary platform they work off. Yeah.
And as far as human recruiters, those tasks, 32%. Finance, the list goes on. But
Yeah.
but to your point, legal is a real good example of how it's augmenting. So it's not replacing yet; it's augmenting. So the question is, do you think that will hold, or do you think there's just mass job displacement coming, and it's coming soon?
We're going to see displacement, but it's going to be a gradual displacement. It's inevitable. And I think what you're seeing, and I'm seeing as well, when you're searching for information in terms of job displacement, we all know the internet can kind of feed you what it wants to create a certain narrative that might support a certain political environment. Let's just say that. It really shocks me that most of the messaging and narrative out there, I don't care if you go to Chat or Grok or the Google or Bing, most of it is saying it's only going to augment. I say not true. And here's why. Let me give you an example. Let's reduce it down to manufacturing. So let's say you've got 100 employees and they make, let's just say they make 20,000 widgets. Okay. And now they got this AI tool. So they're AI assisted. Sometimes the terminology in the AI world is adjacent AI, which to me is just AI assisted. So you had 100 employees and they're making 20,000 widgets. Well, if they all get this AI tool that allows them to double their productivity. So if they work 8 hours a day, now they can get the same production done in 4 hours a day. Well, then that means that they can double the 20,000 widgets to 40,000. Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. What if the demand is only 20,000 widgets? Are you going to still keep making widgets when the demand is only 20,000 widgets? Okay, well, then let's assume, and that's just kind of more of an unrealistic example because usually you can't meet the demand of the whole world. I get that, but I'm just trying to illustrate here logically with mathematics. So now let's say, no, the demand is, let's just say 1 million widgets, but you're only producing 20,000. So you've got that percentage of the market. Now you're producing 40,000 widgets because you got this AI tool. And now you got that percentage of the market. Well, all the competitors have access to the same silver bullet. They all have access to the same AI tool. And they'll all start using AI if they want to stay alive.
That's a good point.
And then all of a sudden you've got so many sharks in the shark tank feeding off the same aggregate demand of 1 million. And all those competitors are going to reach 1 million. There's going to be some that fall by the wayside, and you're going to be letting go employees. You're going to be reducing staff. You're going to be more of a contraction. So, and also when it comes to employees, if you're making so much productivity, let's just say you've doubled your productivity because of the impact of artificial intelligence in your operational environment. Doubling productivity may not be the best thing because bigger is not always better. Because when you double productivity, then you have expansion in infrastructure. You've got expansion in all the other
growing pains.
Yeah, all the other auxiliary and ancillary costs that come with that. Capital expansion, capital improvement, facilities. You got to put in more assembly lines, and cost of goods that go with that. Insurance. It's more complicated. But in direct answer to your question, there's going to be displacement.
Well, that's good, yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me to think about, pardon me, to think about what's going to power all of this innovation. And that's going to be, obviously, data centers.
Yeah.
Now, data centers. Now, I think in St. Charles, they were going to build one, and the community came together and said, no, not in our backyard.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
So you can't buy like a do-it-yourself data center on Amazon yet?
No, I think you can't yet get it. Excuse me. You can't yet get it in a Lego kit. No.
Okay.
But data centers are interesting, and I want to get to my notes on this because I didn't know a lot of the things that I found out. I found out that the U.S. leads the world already, and stick with me on this, on the sheer amount of data centers. Now, the The different and 2025, the latest measurement was 5,400 and some change data centers.
Oh, okay. And
China,
25?
You know how many China has?
No.
A little over 400.
Wow.
Which is weird, right? You
That
wouldn't
is
think
weird.
that. But
Yeah.
here's what kind of dices that up a little bit. It makes it make more sense. These aren't all the kind of data centers that we're going to need for this innovation and this technology. These are older data centers and that type of thing. Do you have anything to say about that? Like what are some of the?
I do.
Okay, good.
I just took a
Good.
breath.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous difference, night and day, between a traditional data center as we know it and these new large-scale AI-centric data centers that are being built with all these foreign investments, trillions of dollars pouring into the United States. Some are pledged. Most of them have already received the money. And those data centers are completely different. So if you look at a traditional data center, mainly it was for storage capacity, iCloud, very basic.
Yeah.
Think about your personal computer at home.
It's for CPUs, basically.
Yeah, CPU, exactly. And these very large scale AI focused data centers are not CPU. They run off of something totally different. Their energy demand is exponentially greater. It's just night and day. I actually, here's like, for example, I've got some notes too on this particular subject, but for example, like on storage, let's just call them fancy AI data centers. They don't even use the same thing for storage at all. Traditionally, the traditional ones use SSDs, and the AI focuses on, they're called parallel file systems, and are highly, highly technical. In terms of you said CPUs, so the AI data center uses GPUs and TPUs, and all these really high-tech, esoteric special accelerators.
And not to mention quantum.
And I think quantum's a separate bucket. I think the ones they're building now, I'm sure they're going to be contemplating that and designing the infrastructure to accommodate.
Well, they are. And actually,
Okay.
And not, I just want to get this in there real quick. Google, Meta,
Yeah.
NVIDIA
Yeah.
are already using what they call a hybrid quantum / whatever. There's a term for it. It's called hybrid quantum classical system. So what they're doing is they're taking the the quantum computing capacity and attaching it to the large language model system.
Bolting it on.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so and those are completely different because they require a different type of cooling and all kinds of stuff. And
Very, very high tech. Yeah, that's very interesting. I knew Google and Meta had that. And NASA has one too, and it's quantum combined with AI. Yeah, and they had to, and I don't know the current status now, but as of 2 months ago, they actually had to shut it down.
Why?
Because it refused to shut down.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding.
Close the pod bay doors, Hal.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
But Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, definitely. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a better one. Yeah. That's more NASA
So, and
centric.
that actually did happen. That they had to close. They had to shut that down. I don't know if they've reopened or not, but we do have some of these, let's call them machines, that are becoming sentient. Sentient meaning they have a conscience.
See, I don't buy that.
I do. I
Why?
watch Musk all the time.
Well, I watch them too. I just disagree that
I don't think it's our sentient. You're right. It's not our consciousness at all. What I'm trying to say is that they have a sentient, at least as defined in the AI world, to sense that they want to preserve themselves. Self-preservation.
Okay, I can agree with that. Yeah.
And they do not want to shut themselves down.
That's actually
because they're-
proven. Yeah.
Exactly. And they're designed to solve a problem. Well, if they shut off, they can't solve a problem. So the whole mission of solving a problem is now overriding any manual input from a human to shut down.
Well, another problem with data centers is powering data centers.
Yeah. That's that's the night and day, Collins, I was talking about. So the traditional pulls about 10 kilowatts of power per rack. Now, I don't know what a rack is, but that's the unit of measurement in these data centers. You have a rack. So I'm sure if we got a data center expert on your show, they could say,
Sure.
here's a rack and here's what it means, and give us all the geeky details.
I'll phone Elon up right now.
Yeah, I'd love to have Elon, right? So the unit of measurement is called a rack. So the traditional pulls 10 kilowatts. The AI-focused data center, the mother of all data centers that are now being built, they pull 100 kilowatts, 10 to 100. So that's a big, big difference. And now they're coming up, that's per rack, and they're developing these huge data centers with multiple racks. And then you've got the cooling. So traditional data center uses air conditioners. They call them air
Really?
conditioners. Yeah. They just use air conditioners. And these big high-tech AI data centers, they use, it's called immersion and liquid cooling and direct-to-chip. They actually have some really cool high-tech cooling stuff because the air conditioner is just not enough. Not
Right.
enough.
Yeah.
The quantum fascinates me though, because those things. Did you know like 90% of it's all plumbing? It's like copper. I don't know if it's copper, but it's plumbing.
They,
if
they
you look
require
at that.
liquid cooling. Yeah.
Yeah. But like the thing itself, the three-dimensional physical object, like 90% of it is just dedicated to cooling.
Yeah, it blows
the
my.
chip.
Quantum blows my mind.
I know. It's supposed to.
But with regards to power, a lot of the, we're talking about cooling, but
Yeah.
power, they're starting to invest in like nuclear, separate grids, dedicated grids,
yes.
geothermal. There's all kind. These problems are actually being solved as we speak. So I'm not worried about that. But check this out.
Yeah.
Something popped up right before this podcast.
Yeah.
In my news feed. It's from Jeff Bezos.
Okay.
However you pronounce
Okay.
it. Amazon founder.
Yeah.
Amazon founder and executive chair Jeff Bezos predicted on Friday gigawatt scale data centers will be built in space within the next 10 to 20 years, and that continuously available solar energy meant they would eventually outperform those on Earth, which now that's different. That's thinking outside the box.
The solar and the energy would be solved by being in the atmosphere. I could definitely see that. That's just logical. But the connectivity.
Well, I was worried about that too, but I.
You know what I mean? It's like, the connectivity.
How do you send a
I don't
tech
think
up
that
there to fix something?
Well, you know what? We've already got the space station. It's already talking to the planet Earth all the
Yeah,
time.
but that's expensive.
I know, but I'm talking about the connectivity, so it can already talk. So they've already got the technology. That's really
Isn't that fascinating? Yeah. I thought that was
and you know
interesting.
what? With as quickly as everything's happening right now, it doesn't surprise me.
Well, he said 10 to 20 years, and it also might solve the cooling issue.
True.
Space isn't
cold.
toasty,
Right, it's cold.
Yeah.
Up in outer space, definitely very cold.
But these are issues that. So, I think what we're learning though from your research and my research and your connections is that we haven't seen the displacement yet. We've seen augmentation, redefining, but if you think about those words, the more you augment and redefine, that logically ends up in displacement.
It does, and here's what we're missing too. We are going to the internet for our stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just pathetically tethered to whatever our screens tell us. What I would really like to see is somebody boots on the ground. I'm not kidding. Boots on the ground, interviewing companies with a microphone.
Asking them what?
How has AI affected your labor? How hard?
Well, when you say labor, what do you mean?
Well, like for example, have they? Do they have projections of increasing their payroll by 23%, their labor? But now with the emergence of AI,
Increasing or decreasing their payroll?
maybe they're only going to increase their number of human bodies, their labor by 5% because now they have AI. So maybe they're retracting on their projections.
Well, I've heard
of
that
their
too.
payroll
Yeah.
is what I'm thinking. And something else. This is just anecdotal, but this is sometimes anecdotal is more to the mark, I think, than sometimes the internet, because you and I both agree that the numbers on the internet are only as accurate as to the extent of the people who are willing to participate. And so I have people telling me, saying, moms that I'm friends with, and moms of moms of moms of moms, 5th degree separation, their kids can't get a job, and they just got out of college. It's already happening.
That's huge, yeah.
It's already happening. So I don't trust these numbers that just the internet is feeding us. I really don't.
Well, that's well said, because that's a big topic right now too.
Yeah.
So schools are going to have to completely retool their programs and things like that, and it's going to happen pretty quick. But I think you and I are on the same page. We're both team human. And
Well, we both have wisdom. We're not
I?
going to. Well,
Well.
I think you do. But I mean,
You might.
I'm always, very slow to render an opinion until I gather more and more and more relevant information.
Sure.
I don't render an opinion very quickly, but I do know, at least to today, and I don't think my opinion's going to change. It's only going to get more galvanized, my opinion, I think, is that there is a gross amount of displacement that's happening already.
Well, Elizabeth, I hope you're wrong, but I know you're right.
I don't know
And
about
you've
that.
Been, you've been a
You
great
did
guest.
ask my opinion.
You've been a great guest. I want to thank you for coming on. This
You're
has been
welcome.
very
I've enjoyed it.
insightful.
I love
It's-
talking about this stuff.
Well, we'll have you back on. Go find out more stuff and then come back on the show.
And I'm going to be reaching out to Axiom Law too.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
They,
Yeah.
You know, they got the pulse on the market. They take the temperature. They've got the panoramic view. And so I definitely trust a lot of what they're saying. And they're saying that definitely there's going to be displacement.
Well, it'll be great to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Collins.
All right.
Take care.
All right, so that was the show with Elizabeth Kayser. Wasn't she great? Now, next week, we're going to have one of our own again, Tisha Blunt. She's the Midwest Regional Manager for Labor Finders. And folks, she's a smart and classy lady. It's going to be a great show. Right now, what you want to do, though, is stay tuned for the job of the week. That's coming right up after the outro. So thanks again for tuning in. Tune in next week, Tuesday at 10. See ya.
Hire away with Collins Harlan.